On this video, I head to the mountains to get one last summer wheeling trip in and check out the Great Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion. All right, let's get to it. This was a trip that I had been looking forward to for a while, mostly due to the fact that I would be visiting a few places and trails that I have been waiting to see for years. The first of those would be a trail that I've been passing for as long as I can remember, but never made the time to stop and check it out. It's called Hurricane Creek, and it's located just off of Interstate 40 past mile marker 7 in North Carolina. The trail is around 6 miles long and weaves you through a wooden mountainside trail that can be fairly tight at times. So if you're worried about your paint, this might not be the best trail for you. It was fairly dry on the day we hit the trail, so there was little challenge for my Gladiator on 40s. I think if it was wet and you were running a stock size tire that was a little bit more highway oriented, it would be fairly difficult, but for the most part, I think you can make it through with a stock Wrangler without a lot of drama. There are a few obstacles that will twist up your Jeep, which is pretty fun, and some different lines along the way. There are a few spots that are a bit off camber and will have you really close to the edge. Now that's where, if it's going to be wet, it's probably going to be smart to have a winch or at least a very good mud terrain, something like this trail grappler, that's going to keep you locked in on the trail so you don't have to worry about essentially falling off it. The water level was pretty low when we tackled it, but looking at the videos that I've seen online, it definitely looks like it gets a lot higher. I don't think it gets so high that you couldn't cross it with a stock Jeep Wrangler, but I don't know if I would want to push it with something any lower than that. One thing I really liked about this trail is there wasn't trash everywhere, despite the fact there are a handful of different camping spots. Now there are a lot of places to camp along the trail, and I think this is a pretty cool overland route if you want to take your time. We were moving through it kind of quickly because I still had a few more hours to go on the trip. You know, just to get to this point from Wilmington, where I live, was a little over 5 hours, so it had already been kind of a long day. There is a few kind of neat things and waterfalls that you can hike out to in this crazy old bus sitting alongside the woods. So there's plenty to do to kind of make it where you can make a day of this trail if you want to. I definitely hate it's taken me so long to stop by this trail, and this is definitely a place that I would like to revisit. I did not get a chance to visit Max Patch, which is sort of like a scenic valley overlook, so I will be coming back at some point, probably fairly soon. The trail exit that we took us on a few back roads that ultimately led us back to I-40, where we continued our journey to Pigeon Forge. Now this was on a Wednesday that we hit Hurricane Creek and we made our journey. On Thursday, it's actually opening day for the Great Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion. So if you're eager to get to the show, this is the first day for it. For me, I had one more wheeling trip that I wanted to get in before going to the show, and that was to Windrock. Now Windrock is located a little over an hour from Pigeon Forge, but it is absolutely worth the drive. It's one of the South's best off-road parks, and you've got plenty of options whether you want to do some extreme trails or just some easy overland dirt roads. I met up with a friend there. We wasted no time hitting the first trail that you get onto from the general store, which is Trail 22. Trail 22 is classified as a moderate trail, and like all of the Windrock trails, if you get any rain, it's going to drastically increase the difficulty no matter what trail you are on. It was pretty hot and dry while we were there, so my trail grapplers had no issues hooking up in the clay and rocks. This is a really fun trail, but I will warn you, there are some extremely tight sections that will give you some new pinstripes. From Trail 22, we jumped down to Trail 27 and then onto Trail 26. Both of those trails are considered moderates, with Trail 26 actually being a Jeep Badge of Honor trail. You don't need 40s to tackle any of these trails by any means, but with the Gladiator's long wheelbase and kind of modest lift size of about 3.5 inches. The larger tire really helps to keep the belly from scraping over the rocks. Now, my intention was to spend the entire day wheeling, but coming off of Trail 26, my Gladiator decided to not only throw a check engine light, but I got the dreaded service 4-wheel drive icon. While I ran through a few troubleshooting methods on the trail, I ultimately decided to call it a day and head back to the cabin to see if I could fix the Jeep there. More on that in a minute. The next day for us was Friday, and this is the day I decided to dedicate entirely to go to the Great Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion. This was the 11th year for the event. The show is essentially split into 3 main sections: an inside show with vendors, a parking lot for show and shine participants, and an upper parking area for outside vendors. I started off the show inside the convention center, mainly just to escape the heat. My first stop was by the Nitto tire booth to check out something I had seen they posted on their social media accounts. It was this crazy and very clean XJ build. It's running a 38 by 1350 Nitto Trail Grappler. It's got a full Iron Rock off-road long arm suspension and rear coil conversion, armor from JCR, Fox shocks, and a 1-ton axle swap using R-Tech trusses. Pretty cool to see an XJ built to this level that's this clean. On the complete opposite spectrum, there was a Elephant-powered Jeep Wrangler Rubicon from America's Most Wanted 4x4, also in the Nitto booth. Just that engine swap alone is $100,000, so pretty crazy. I'd love to see one of these things actually get down off-road. Alongside that was a super nice Gladiator build, which you can see more of on the Instagram handle Arctic Mojave. Grabbing the complimentary swag bag, I continued my rounds checking out some really wild builds and some of the latest products from companies like Rock Crawler Suspension, Synergy Manufacturing, and RCV Performance. If you weren't ready to step into a serious axle or suspension upgrade, which you could actually purchase at the show, there were lots of t-shirts and the most Jeep toys I've ever seen in one spot. And yes, there was also Jeep furniture, which I feel like I need to somehow convince my wife that we now need. Overall, lots of things to do. I'm not going to walk you through everything. This is one of those shows where you just need to go to it and check it out. After I made my way out of the convention center, I headed up to the Show and Shine parking lot. Here, that heat was brutal, but there was a good mix of mall crawlers, trail rigs, and show Jeeps, all which, you know, really deserve some level of attention. I get that not everything is going to be my cup of tea or someone else's, but it's nice to see people continually investing time and money into building what they want. Just behind the Show and Shine lot was the outdoor vendor showcase, which was noticeably less crowded thanks in part to the afternoon heat. I'm just saying that a fall show in the mountains would be a really good idea. There were plenty of rigs to check out here, and even some familiar ones that I saw at Jeep Beach in Daytona, Florida earlier this year. One thing that I kept seeing were bob bed conversions from MotoBuild. This chops 18 inches off of the back of the Gladiator and replaces the 5-foot bed with a 4-foot one. At first, I was really on the fence about this setup, but seeing it in person with the rack system, I'm definitely digging it. For you TJ guys, this 3.6 liter conversion is exciting news. As someone who has engine swapped a TJ with an underwhelming Mopar V8, I think this could be a really good option with an engine that's readily available and makes great power for something as light as the Jeep Wrangler TJ. So I ended up spending an entire day at the show, and honestly, I probably could have spent 2 days there. There were enough vendors that were nice to take the time and talk to me about products and things like that, and really cool rigs that it's definitely worth carving out more time for. The reason that I didn't go back is because I really wanted to go check out a new off-road park. It's called Bays Mountain Off-Road, and it's located right outside of Knoxville, which is only about 39 miles away from Pigeon Forge. I really wanted to go see a new off-road park because you rarely hear about new off-road parks popping up. The challenge, I still had all sorts of lights on my dash. After rebooting the Taser, pulling out the rear tone rings, chasing down all of the wiring for the lockers, sensors, you name it. I was unplugging and plugging in clips. I was pressing down fuses. I did everything I could to try to get that service four-wheel drive light to go off. Now, the reason it's a big deal is because I used the factory Rubicon locker switches to control my ARB air rear locker and my Eaton e-locker up front. If I still had the factory axle set, I wouldn't even be able to send power or at least get the front wheel drive to move if I still had the front axle disconnect. So thankfully that's not there on my Jeep, but I still needed to be able to use the lockers if I'm going to hit some serious trails. And you can't use the Rubicon electronic sway bar when you have that service four-wheel drive error code as well. So I was kind of stuck. I wanted to figure out what the right way to fix this was. I also had a handful of other error codes. I wrote everything down on a paper bag that I just happened to have. And in total, it's a lot of codes, and I've never had codes with this Jeep before. Not check engine, not service four-wheel drive, nothing. So that was a little odd. I went through everything I could that night, and Saturday morning I wasn't ready to give up yet. I wanted to try to go off-road, and I worked on it all morning trying to troubleshoot, test drive, troubleshoot, you name it, and I finally just threw in the towel. It was getting too late, and it was what it was. Now, I don't have a fix as of right now to what's going on. I have ordered a transfer case position sensor, and I'm going to start to isolate. I've got a programmer that should allow me to isolate which tone ring is communicating or maybe not. So that's where I'm going to go next. I will have a follow-up video on this, hopefully showing you guys, hey, this is what I found was wrong with the Jeep. This is what I did to fix it. And I'm also going to be addressing the fact that I am no longer going to use the factory Rubicon switches or that factory sway bar disconnect button. I just don't trust it at this point. And when you're 500 miles away from home, the last thing you want to have to do is go, oh, well, my four-wheel drive's not working. Oh, well. So I've got some solutions for that 100%. I'll show you in the next video. And hopefully I'll be able to tell you, hey, this is what happened to my Jeep. I'm not taking my Jeep to the dealership. I wouldn't trust my local Jeep dealership to check the air pressure in my tire, much less try to troubleshoot something that's heavily modified. So this might be a little bit of an expensive learning curve, but I would rather tackle it myself. So for right now, I've got to get this Wrangler back on tires and off of jack stands. I need to pull the canopy back off of the Jeep and get it in the garage and start to troubleshoot and replace some parts, and I will tell you what I find very soon. The good news about all of this is, despite the fact I wasn't able to go check out the off-road park, I just kind of ran out of time, I just took the rest of the day and I went to Dollywood. I hadn't been there since I was 9 years old. I had an absolute blast, and I don't know if it was the combination of the heat and the fact that school had just got back in, but there was no way. All of the rides we just walked on, and it was an absolute blast. So still a really cool, fun vacation for me. I'm now back in Wilmington. My kids are back in school, and so I'll be here for a while, and I'm going to figure out what's going on with the Jeep. And yeah, I got some cool new projects in the works as well. So please, leave a comment if you got any questions. If you want to see what I'm working on a little bit faster behind the scenes, you can always check me out on Instagram at Ali Mansour Editor. And until next time, I appreciate you guys watching. I hope to see you on the trail. Take care. Thanks for sticking around to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider subscribing to the Driving Line channel. Our goal is to excite, entertain, and educate you on all things automotive. So if you want to come be part of our journey, please hit that subscribe button, and we hope to see you on the next video. Take care.